how do we tap into those whispers and recognize them? Like, I think sometimes people think the bells and whistles and everything's going to fall down from heaven and they're going to know. How do we tap into the whisper? It's not actually all this stuff falling from heaven.
You know how you do it? It's the hardest thing that anyone could ever do. So listen in, folks. The way you tap into your whispers is going to be the most difficult thing you do today. You're going to turn your phone off. You're going to turn everything off. And you're going to sit in silence for minutes upon minutes upon minutes. Do you know how awkward it is? Do you know how hard it is to actually turn everything off and just remain silent? It's really hard. It's hard for me too. It's a discipline. Prayer is a discipline. It's a discipline to say, is that my voice or is that God's voice? Is that me? Is that my ego talking to me, telling me I should do that? Or is that God telling me I should do that? Now, if I'm disciplined enough in my walk to every day turn it off for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on where I'm at, is if I hear the same whispers day after day after day, it's a good chance that that's the big man up top saying, hey, TD, I've been whispering to you, because the shouts are typically the ego. The shouts are the ego saying, hey, man, you get accolades when you do that. Hey, you get money when you do that. Hey, that's ego. And y'all know what ego stands for, right? Edging God out. So it's truly the profound wisdom is in the quietness. And it's hard when you're driving to turn the radio off or the podcast off. But if you really want to get in touch with your spirit, it's complete silence, eerie silence, like that right there. Like when everything is quiet, like people want to talk. So for me, the true wisdom, Linda, is how do I spend more time in silence? It's like being a monk, right? It's like, how do you be a monk? How do you be quiet for 30 minutes a day? When I was going through my back injury, to bring it full circle, I learned from a guy named Dub Lee. Dub Lee, who studied with a man named Tanu Roshi, an energy healer. We used to have to sit for 60 minutes. 60. That's an hour. An hour, hand over fist, right below belly button, which is your hara, the center of your being, your emotional being, right below your belly button. And you could not move for 1 hour. Literally sit there. And if we moved, we had a scratch, we had a, wipe. A bell would ring, like you're not being disciplined to sit there in your, at that time, it's called sitting savasana, or not savasana, sitting zazen. Savasana is a corpse pose. It's sitting zazen. So we would sit zazen for 1 hour. Now imagine the talk you hear for 1 hour of not saying a word, not moving your body. If you want to be disciplined, try that morning. That's when you truly can tap into the whispers.
Wow. Now, I know a lot of people, the sitting like that and being alone with yourself is something people avoid, because I see it in yoga at the end when people can't relax because it's that silence. Yeah.
Remember I was talking about embrace the suck? We've got to learn as human beings to be quiet on the inside. To be the quiet of the storm is in the inside. Well, we can want all the change on the outside we want. We can try to change everything on the outside world. But listen, until we change the inside and quiet the inside, we'll always be turbulent and chaotic on the inside. And if you're turbulent and chaotic on the inside, guess what's going to happen to your anxiety level and your stress level? It's going to go way up. There's a lot of kids right now who are gaming and on Instagram and social media, TikTok, all of them, right? And it creates a level of anxiety that you're, FOMO, if you're not on it all the time. So you're trying to get these good study habits, but you're always on social media. Can't happen, right? So it's this literally an addiction. So for all of us, the challenge would be, how do you get comfortable with just being yourself and quieting everything down? Maybe you start with 2 minutes, 5 minutes, where you don't have your phone in your hand, it's off, your emails are off, or you go to a yoga class live or online, right? And you just literally work on your breath. See, if we can tap into our breath, we breathe 18 to 22,000 times a day. Do you actually inhale and you exhale 18 to 22,000 times a day? Last you checked, you probably didn't even stop to think about that. But our breath is our life. So if you can literally, for let's just say 25 breaths, did you realize every time you breathe in and out, if you actually listen to your breath, every breath's a little bit different. And your breath communicates something to you. Are you uptight? Are you stressed? Are you anxious? So if you can learn to use your breath to manipulate your relaxation and your relaxation response, it'll help you. And by the way, going back to the pro athletes, it's no different. Because if you want to learn to perform at your highest level and you're a high school athlete or a college athlete, you're a pro athlete, if your breath is tight and shallow, you could be in the best shape in the world. I can train you 7 days a week, but if you get into a situation that all of a sudden produces a lot of stress and anxiety, you can't even operate at your best self because you're not getting maximum oxygen to your muscles because you're all uptight and you're stressed out and you can't even think tight. That's why the best soldiers in the world can quiet the inside down. Like, the best athletes in the world and performers, whether it's a musician or an actor and actress, despite lights, camera, and action, how do you quiet the inside down? When you can quiet the inside down, then you could truly be of your best essence. And that's what I would love for people to get out of today's episode is learn to quiet the inside down. I call it tap into your whispers. When you can tap into your whispers, you can tap into the wisdom that's already there. If you're already always seeking on the outside, listen to great podcasts like this here. But ultimately, when you get this wisdom, when you're all done listening to this, how about turning everything off and just getting comfortable listening to your breath and realize everything's going to be okay and have positive affirmations about where you're at and what your GSD is, what your God-sized dream is. And when you do that, that becomes a discipline, just like working out. That's why I said work out every day, because it'll help you get your body right, get your mind right. Just like quiet time is a discipline, and it's hard to do. It's one of the hardest disciplines that one could do is turn everything off and just be still and silent. Now you're like, wait a second, Todd Durkin, that's the guy that's full of crazy energy. Yeah, guess what? For every yang, there's a yin. And if I don't have that yin time, I can't have that yang time, because you can't always be on all the time. You've got to quiet that down. So for those of you who are listening, you're like, oh man, I always thought TD's crazy. There are times when I'm cray and the energy's going nuts. But the reason why I can go nuts when I need to go nuts and get all that energy and enthusiasm is because of the time early in the morning or in the evening when I'm quieting everything down and recovering and recouping and rejuvenating all of that as well.
I love that because, people might look at you and think that you're like that all the time.
No.
And, the truth of the matter is you have to quiet down. You have to take a rest, or you won't have that energy to give, and you have to fill up your cup, right?
Correct. Every day. I have people I coach that they're on track for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it kind of dies out. Because your best practices die out because you get lazy on the weekends. Hey, folks, it's a 7-day-a-week thing. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be on point 5 days a week. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to sleep in on Saturday. I'm going to sleep in on Sunday. I'm going to go out and I'm going to have some drinks, or and I'm not telling you got to work all the time. No. I'm not telling you to do that. What I am saying to do is when it comes to your habits, when you define your best habits and what you have to do, I'm a product of what am I doing in that morning routine or during the day? Are there people or there are things I'm saying yes to that I shouldn't be saying yes to because it depletes my energy? Are there people I'm spending time with who are actually depleting my energy and my focus and my creativity, right? So all of these things are really, really important, but it comes down to habits. And it's 7 days a week. Those habits have to be dialed in. And yes, you can have cheat meals. And yes, you're like, oh, should I get up at 5:30 in the morning on Saturday or Sunday? I'd say yes. For me, I'd say take a nap on the weekends if you like to, but get up at the same time and take a nap during the day, because there's something special about the morning time. But that's me. But find out what works for you and then dial that stuff in, because you've got to make sure your energy is everything. If you don't have energy, then you have nothing. If you don't have energy, you have nothing, because you're feeling like garbage and you can't show up. And whether it's a podcast, an episode, if it's a training,
Right on.
It's everything. It's absolutely. So, by the way, if I go down in that training session right now, and I've got an athlete coming up here in a few, and if I'm not good, and he's like, "Hey, TD, everything okay?" I'm like, why? Why do you say that? Well, you seem a little down. You're a little tired today, or Listen, if I'm bored with a session, if I'm tired in a session, I'm going to infiltrate him or her with negativity.